Imani, I got to ask you this. Part of the issue that we're seeing here is if you're not lucky enough to live in a state where you've got prosecutors who are saying, hey, we're not going to go forward with this, you still have to deal with judges. And we got the story that came out earlier this week about President Biden cutting a deal with Mitch McConnell where he's going to appoint a lifetime anti-choice judge from Kentucky in favor of getting 2 temporary prosecutors. On the ground, Imani, how can the fight against abortion continue? How can the fight to keep choice be alive if you have a president who's always cutting deals with anti-choice people? How do regular voters, how do people have to respond to something like this deal that Joe Biden's just pulled off?
I think it's an unimaginable betrayal. I think it would have been an unimaginable betrayal at any point in time, but for him to be making this deal and for that news to come forth a week after Roe was overturned, I think it's egregious. And I also think it's bad politics. As you said, this is an exchange for 2 prosecutors who will have a limited term. So you're going to exchange an anti-choice federal judge who will be on the bench for life for 2 limited term prosecutors. And I can imagine in the future, if this judge goes far, becomes potentially a Supreme Court nominee, one can imagine in a few years this judge sitting in a confirmation hearing and saying, I was a bipartisan pick. I was nominated by a Democratic president, and that going to help him get through a confirmation process. I just think it's a terrible idea.
Yeah, this is the equivalent of, I'm going to trade you a chunk of gold for 2 Bitcoin. That'll work long term. Jared, this is my question. You're down in Georgia. You've made this decision that you're not going to prosecute. What kind of pressure are you getting within the state? You still have, at least currently, Governor Brian Kemp. You still have a lot of Republicans who are influence and power in that state. Are you getting pressure or threats to change your mind or to back down from the stance you've taken that you will not prosecute people seeking abortion?
We're definitely getting pressure, but it doesn't matter. We're going to keep fighting because in my circuit, women are going to have the same rights as men, and it doesn't matter who brings what pressure. We're going to keep fighting.
I got to ask this also because I think this is the thing that I don't think enough Americans understand. In the state of Georgia, it's difficult to get access to an abortion anyway. In this imaginary world that Republicans would like, and I'll have to ask you this, what would it take for a district attorney to go after someone? Would you have to have somebody rat them out that they got an abortion and then you would have to bring up charges? Would you have to pursue them if somebody, say, caught them in an Uber on the way to get an abortion? How would this process even work if you weren't taking the stance that you're taking?
It would be untenable regardless, but it's more than just the logistics of prosecuting the abortion case. It's what it does to our actual sexual assault victims, because some of these laws would ask me to turn around and in the same breath that I'm prosecuting a rapist, incestuous father for raping his daughter and getting her pregnant, turn around and prosecute her and allow the system to re-victimize her. And so how could I possibly prosecute the case against the person, the actual rapist, the actual sexual assault perpetrator, if the victim is afraid to talk to me because she thinks that I'm going to try and put her in prison for making a healthcare decision with her doctor?
And Sherry, real quick to add on to this, talk just briefly about the limited resources that you have as a prosecutor. Like, talk about how much time it would take to hunt down all these women seeking abortions and potentially letting murderers and rapists and bank robbers and all sorts of other people go.
And that's a great question, because right now we aren't dealing with the normal case log backlog that we have. Right. We had 2 years where the criminal justice system was shut down. So we are at a precipice where we are trying to fight our way back and deal with violent crime, murders, rapists, child molestation cases, armed robberies, cases that actually contribute to harm in the community, to public safety in the community, to violence in the community, and to divert those resources to go after women making healthcare decisions just doesn't make sense. And it's not what our communities are asking and begging us to do to keep them safe.